Hi, my name is Henry. I've known Sophia since we were kids, and our families were close because they both worked in the farming business. Her dad owned the grain elevator, and mine managed the biggest farm in town. It always felt like we were meant to be together. After dating for a long time, we got married. Even though we had our ups and downs, I believed we had a strong relationship. At first, our life together was pretty normal, like any other married couple. We had good times and bad times. But things began to change. Sophia became distant, and I felt us growing apart. Little did I know, this was the start of something much bigger. One hot July evening, out of sheer curiosity, I ended up looking at an adult website. I usually don't go to those sites, but that night I not only browsed the content, but also paid $100 for a premium membership. What I saw shocked me to my core. It was a live stream of a beautiful woman with a muscular man. But this time it was different. The woman, calling herself Jessica, was actually my wife, Sophia. The website was called Nature's Pleasure Spa, and it certainly lived up to its name. Sophia seemed to be enjoying herself fully. When she rolled over on the bed, looking satisfied, the man, Mike, grinned and said, "That was pretty good. Bet your husband never makes you climax like that, huh?" Sophia smiled and replied, "It was good, no doubt. But for the record, no one makes me feel the way my husband does. I've been with a few guys, but no one compares to him. You're good, but he's amazing. So, keep trying." Mike looked confused and asked, "If he's so great, why are you cheating on him by being here with me?" Still smiling, Sophia responded, "I didn't plan this. I love sex, and I'm glad you take care of me, but I also do it because I can get away with it. He'll never know. I truly love my husband, and these nights here just make me appreciate him even more." She even laughed and added, "In a way, I'm doing him a favor by being here." I was devastated. The $100 membership was worth it because it revealed what was happening behind my back. It was far cheaper than hiring a private investigator. Sophia and I had been married for over 8 years, and we had a long history together. We met in elementary school, and our families were intertwined through business. Her dad owned the grain elevator, while mine ran the largest farm. After dating other people through high school and college, we eventually became exclusive in our junior year at the University of Illinois. I proposed shortly after, and a year later, we were married. Sophia's family eventually bought a stake in the grain business when her parents retired to Phoenix. She, her sister Amy, and her brothers Tom and Carl took over the operations, while I focused on my farm. It was a family-run operation, and Sophia handled the bookkeeping. That night in July changed everything. I'll never forget the shock of seeing my wife on that website, and it was just the beginning of the story. Sophia and Amy came back from their spa trip looking so refreshed that they decided to make it a yearly event. After the planting season ended, they booked another spa getaway the next July. It was during that weekend when I discovered the video that would change everything. But how did I come across it? Dan Marvel, a field agent from the Illinois Department of Agriculture, dropped by during his routine checks. Henry and I had known Dan since college. When he asked about Sophia, I mentioned her trip to Princess Spas, and he gave me a strange look. He said something weird was going on at that spa, mentioning that his cousin, a former employee there, had shared some wild stories. Dan suggested I check out a site connected to the spa, one with pleasures in the name. Later that night, my curiosity got the better of me. I started searching online and stumbled upon a site called Nature's Pleasure Spa, which featured a live stream. That's when everything began to unravel. What I found crushed me. The devastation, anger, and heartbreak came all at once when I realized Sophia was cheating on me. The live stream wasn't a one-time affair either. I found videos from her previous visits to the spa. With a premium membership, I could download the videos for $20 each, and I did just that. Over the course of 3 visits, I downloaded 8 videos that showed Sophia with 2 men, Mike and Steve. For $260, I had all the proof I needed. I quickly made several copies of the videos on DVDs and secured them in a safe hidden behind a panel in my office. Afterward, I deleted all traces of the videos from my computer. With the evidence locked away, I sent Sophia a message. "Sophia, it's Henry. I know what you've been doing at the spa, and I have proof. Don't come back to the house. This is no longer your home, and soon I won't be your husband. My lawyer will contact you to arrange for your belongings." Sophia must have had her phone off because I didn't hear from her that night. The next morning, my phone rang. It was her. I ignored the call, and then her voicemail came through. She acted confused, saying she didn't know what I was talking about and that she and Amy were heading home. She called again, left the same message, and sent a similar text, pleading for us to talk. I replied, "Maybe Mike knows what I'm talking about. Have him call me." I repeated that she wasn't welcome at the house and that we were done. Sophia kept calling and leaving messages, insisting on talking, but I stayed firm. I went to the bank and arranged a second safe deposit box to store another copy of the DVDs and our prenuptial agreement. I had a meeting with my lawyer, Richard Warner, later that morning. When I arrived at Richard's office, I was shocked to see Sophia there. She tried to talk to me, but I ignored her. Richard made things worse by revealing he planned to represent her, not me. I was furious. I told him I no longer trusted him and demanded all my paperwork by the end of the day. I was already looking for a new attorney and had David Warner, Richard's brother, in mind. After meeting with some friends who vouched for David's skills, I made up my mind to hire him. Sophia sat silently for a moment, torn between her lawyer's advice and her desire to win me back. Finally, she took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, Henry, if it means a chance to fix things, I'll do it." I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app, placing it on the table between us. My heart raced as I prepared to ask the questions I'd rehearsed 100 times in my head. This was it. Her answers would determine the future of our relationship or lack thereof. I started with a simple one. "Sophia, did you have an affair with anyone during our marriage?" Her eyes welled up with tears as she shook her head. "No, Henry, I didn't." I paused, studying her face. It was the answer I expected, but I still wasn't sure if I believed her. I needed to go deeper. "Did you ever develop emotional feelings for another man while we were married?" Sophia hesitated for a moment before answering. "There was someone I confided in, but it never crossed the line into anything physical. I was lonely, Henry, and I felt like we were drifting apart. But I never wanted to hurt you." I clenched my fists under the table. Emotional betrayal felt just as cutting as physical infidelity, but I had to keep my cool. Who was this person? She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. It was a coworker, someone from my father's business, but it was nothing serious, I swear. David leaned forward slightly, giving me a look that told me to tread carefully. I could feel the tension in the room, but I pressed on. "Sophia, you say it was nothing serious, but emotional affairs can be just as damaging. Did you ever consider leaving me for this man?" She wiped her tears and shook her head vigorously. "No, never. Henry, I love you. I always have. I never wanted anyone else. I was just lost." The anger inside me simmered. It felt like she was trying to play on my emotions, but I couldn't let her words cloud my judgment. "Did you ever lie to me about your whereabouts or who you were with?" Sophia paused again, her lips trembling. I did lie a few times, but only because I knew how jealous you could get. I didn't want to make things worse between us." The room grew silent for a moment. I felt the weight of every answer she gave. I knew the prenup could protect me financially, but emotionally, I was already broken. David cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Henry, I think we've gotten the information we need for now. It may be time to take a step back and consider your options." I nodded, feeling numb. Turning off the recording, I stood up. "Sophia, this is hard for me, but I need some time to process everything. We'll meet again soon to discuss where we go from here." She looked at me with pleading eyes. "Henry, please don't give up on us. I still love you." Without responding, I turned and walked out of the room, David following closely behind me. The ride back to David's office was silent. I had a lot to think about, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. Sophia's confession had taken me down a path I never expected, and the emotional toll was weighing heavily on me. After walking out of Richard's office, I drove home in silence, my mind replaying the entire conversation over and over. I had demanded honesty, but I had been met with half-truths and evasions. When I asked David to file for divorce, I thought I was closing the door on a painful chapter, But the aftermath was even harder than I imagined. Sitting at my desk with a cold beer in hand, I was still reeling from the mess that had unfolded. The confession, the lies, the years wasted, all of it swirled in my mind. I thought I had covered all my bases, but then it hit me like a punch to the gut. I had left the tape behind. That tape was my safeguard, my proof, and now it was sitting in Richard's office, probably erased or forgotten. I grabbed my phone and called David in a panic. "Did you get the tape?" I asked, my voice shaking with frustration. "No," David replied, sounding equally unsettled. "I was so focused on catching up with you that I left without it." I cursed under my breath, feeling like everything was slipping out of my control. "Great," I muttered. "Now we have to rely on Richard to hold on to it. Call him and check if it's still there. But I bet they'll tell us they assumed we didn't need it anymore." After hanging up, I sat there, staring into the distance, the anger and regret gnawing at me. I had all the evidence I needed to move forward with the divorce, but now, without that recording, it felt like I had fumbled one of the last important steps. As I finished my third beer, the house felt eerily quiet. I tried distracting myself with the evening news, but my mind kept wandering back to what I had left behind. The phone call to David didn't bring any resolution, only more questions and a sinking feeling in my gut. Then, out of nowhere, I thought I heard the soft crunch of tires on the gravel outside. I got up from my chair and walked toward the back door, stepping out onto the porch to investigate. The night was unusually quiet, and for a moment, everything seemed still. But before I could make sense of it, I felt something sharp hit the back of my head. A blinding flash of light exploded in my vision, followed by complete darkness. The world around me vanished, and everything went silent. When I woke up, it felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. My head was pounding, and my body was stiff, like I'd been sitting in one position for too long. I tried to move, but something was wrong. My arms wouldn't budge. My legs were bound too. I was tied to a chair. Thick ropes dug into my wrists and ankles, and it was pitch black. I couldn't see a thing. I tried to yell out, but my throat was dry, and all I managed was a weak rasp. Panic was creeping up on me. Who had done this? Where was I? Time passed. I don't know how long. Minutes? Hours? My mind was racing, searching for answers that weren't there. Suddenly, I heard the unmistakable sound of a door creaking open. I strained to see, but the darkness swallowed everything. Then, a figure appeared. A tall man stepped forward, and as he got closer, the dim outline of his face became visible. His expression was cold, but there was a smug grin plastered on his lips. He looked like he had all the time in the world. "Well, look who's finally awake," he said, his voice low and mocking. I tried to say something, anything, but my mouth was dry as a bone. "Relax, I'm not here to hurt you. Yet," he said with a shrug, taking a seat across from me. "I just want to have a chat." He pulled out a cigarette, lighting it up casually, as if we were old friends meeting up for a drink. The smoke curled into the air between us. "You've been busy, Henry. Real busy." My mind was racing. How did he know my name? What was he talking about? "You've been sticking your nose in places it doesn't belong," he continued, puffing on his cigarette, digging up things that were best left buried. I was trying to piece it together. What had I been doing? Then it hit me. The grain elevator. I'd been looking into it for weeks, poking around, asking questions. Something about the people who owned it never sat right with me. The man smirked, as if he could read my thoughts. "There it is. Now you remember." I didn't know how much he knew, but I could feel the situation spiraling. I tried to speak, but my voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want?" He leaned back, taking a long drag of his cigarette. "Simple. You stop your little investigation. You walk away. Pretend like you never got involved." I shook my head, more out of instinct than anything. I can't just stop." His smile faded. "I thought you might say that." He got up and walked toward a small table in the corner of the room. My stomach dropped when I saw what he was reaching for, a syringe. He filled it with some kind of clear liquid. "This," he said, holding it up, "is gonna make sure you forget all about tonight. And everything else you've been sticking your nose into." Fear surged through me as he moved closer. I tried to pull free, but the ropes were too tight. I was trapped. "Don't fight it," he said softly, almost like he was reassuring me. "You won't even remember me. You'll wake up tomorrow, and this'll all be gone, like a bad dream." He stuck the needle into my arm before I could even scream. The liquid burned, and within seconds, I felt myself slipping away. The last thing I heard before everything went black was his voice, distant now, as if from another world. "Goodbye, Henry." I woke up in a cold sweat, heart racing, and struggled to catch my breath. I was in my own bedroom, but everything felt wrong. My mind was foggy, and I couldn't remember anything. Not the past few days, not even my own name. Panic set in as I looked around, searching for something to ground myself. I stumbled into the bathroom and stared at the man in the mirror, someone who looked like a stranger. The reflection didn't feel like mine. I tried to force a memory, anything, but nothing came. It was like my entire life had been wiped clean. Desperate, I went downstairs, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. The feeling of dread lingered, gnawing at me. Something terrible had happened. I just didn't know what. Needing help, I picked up the phone and called Walter, my best friend. His voice on the other end was a relief. "Hello?" Walter answered. "Walter, it's Henry." "I don't know what's happening," I stammered. "Henry? What's going on?" His voice shifted from casual to concerned. "I don't remember anything. My mind's a blank," I explained. "There was this man, and he did something to me." Walter was silent for a moment before he spoke again, his tone sharp. "Stay where you are. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I hung up, pacing the kitchen, trying to make sense of it all. I knew Walter would help, but the fear gnawing at me wouldn't go away. Not knowing who I was, or why this had happened, was terrifying. Minutes later, I heard a car pull up outside. I rushed to the door and let Walter in. "Henry, are you sure you're okay?" he asked, his face full of concern. "I don't know, man. I can't remember anything," I repeated, feeling helpless. "We need to get you to the hospital, get you checked out," Walter said firmly. I agreed, and we headed out. At the hospital, doctors ran tests, but they couldn't find anything physically wrong with me. My memory loss remained a mystery. Walter and I left the hospital and went to a cafe, where he started filling me in on everything he knew. He told me about the strange man, the kidnapping, and even about my life before. All things I should have known, but didn't. It felt surreal. Days passed with little progress. I reported the kidnapping to the police, though they seemed doubtful. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Then, one day, while walking in the park, I spotted a woman who seemed familiar. She approached me cautiously, her eyes filled with regret. "Henry," she said softly, "I'm so sorry. Do I know you?" I asked. "I'm your wife, Sophia," she replied, her voice shaking. "I made a terrible mistake, and I'm so sorry." Sophia explained that the people responsible for my memory loss had erased my mind to protect their interests in a business deal I'd gotten too close to. I was stunned, unsure if I could trust her. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Sophia," I finally said, "but I need answers." "I'll help you," she promised. "We'll figure this out together." And so, we began our search for the truth. Sophia and I dedicated the next few weeks to investigating the grain elevator. We spoke with employees, searched through old records, and gradually began piecing together the puzzle that had once felt insurmountable. Each conversation, each document we uncovered, brought us closer to the truth. What we discovered was chilling. The grain elevator was a front for a massive money-laundering scheme tied to drug trafficking. The owners were deeply involved in illegal activities, using the facility to wash the profits from their crimes. Realizing I was getting too close to uncovering their operation, they decided to erase my memory, ensuring I'd forget everything I knew. The revelation sent a shiver down my spine. They had been monitoring me all along. As we shared this harrowing information, both of us were horrified. We knew we couldn't remain silent. It was imperative that we took action. We approached the police and laid out everything we had discovered. Their skepticism turned to shock as we explained the extent of the operation. They assured us they would look into it. A few weeks later, I received a call that filled me with a mix of fear and hope. The police had conducted a raid on the grain elevator. They arrested several individuals, including the owners, and dismantled the drug trafficking ring. I felt an immense weight lift from my shoulders. Justice was finally being served. After the chaos subsided, Sophia and I felt a profound sense of relief. We had risked our lives to expose the truth, and despite the fear, it had been worth it. With the danger behind us, we turned our focus toward rebuilding our lives. We decided to leave the small town where our lives had been upended. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to escape the shadows of the past. We found new jobs and settled into a cozy home, far removed from the turmoil we had endured. Together, we embraced our new beginning. The bond between us had strengthened through our shared ordeal, and each day we grew more grateful for the love we had found in each other. While we would never forget the dark chapter of our lives, we refused to let it define us. As we moved forward, we made a pact to cherish the present and build a future filled with happiness. We knew we had conquered something formidable, and that realization empowered us. Whatever lay ahead, we were ready to face it together, hand in hand, knowing we had emerged from the darkness stronger than ever. This is the end of today's story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.